Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Restoring Hope with Crosswinds Counseling. I'm your host, Curtis Smith. I can't believe we're just over a week away from Christmas. It is hard to believe how time is moving so fast. I also can't believe this is our 10th show already. That would not be the case without the incredible support of our friends here at WHMB TV 40, but also the connection that we have to community partners. A huge thank you to Prime 47 Downtown, Shepherd Community Center, and Tesco for making Restoring Hope possible. We have been so blessed through our first 9 shows to have wonderful guests, and that blessing continues tonight with Dan Johnson, the founder of New Day Treatment Center. Dan, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Curtis. Great to be with you.
For those that don't know New Day, tell us a little bit about your organization.
Well, New Day is an addiction treatment center, and we're unique because we are both a Christian organization, and so everything that we do comes from a Christian faith perspective, but we also offer inpatient, outpatient services for addiction treatment that are accredited, we're licensed, able to receive insurance, and all that sort of thing.
That's a tricky line to walk sometimes, being both Christian and accredited and able to be covered by insurance. How have you guys navigated those waters?
Well, it's not been easy, and we have not shied away from the fact that we are Christian, and yet we do rely upon evidence-based methods and so forth. And so kind of the way I've always described it to our team and to others is that we have a biblical worldview, and kind of we filter everything through that. And what makes it through that makes it into our program. And with rare exception, most of the traditional recovery and treatment methodologies and so forth fit. Addiction treatment is still one of the areas of mental health where there's a lot of faith still included, kind of rooting back into the old 12 steps and even prior to that historically.
Dan, why did you're the founder and the president, why did you start this? Why did you see a need? Did it mean something to you personally? Why did you create New Day?
Well, it all started when I was actually, my background is as a pastor. And so I was a pastor of a church, and this was back in the 1990s. And a friend of mine who attended our church came to me and said, my son's struggling with heroin. And I'll never forget the next question. He said, "What are we going to do about it?" And he wasn't trying to push anything on me, but just because of our connection, he invited me really into their struggle. And that was really my introduction into the enormity of this need, the power of God to help people, as well as the families that are struggling with their kids or spouses and so forth.
So he used the word we instead of I. Exactly. He didn't say, what am I going to do about it? Help me pray about it. He said, what are we going to do about it? Did you have any idea in that moment what you would do about it?
None. Other than, obviously, I had a heart for people, and having been a pastor, I had a heart to help people take truth and apply it into the everyday realities of life. And there really wasn't, there wasn't Google to go find stuff back in those days. And so what I did was I just started meeting regularly with his son. And also with him, and just kind of learned by the seat of my pants, really. And over time, as my phone started to ring, and at the other end would be somebody who said, "So and so told me that you helped them with their son," and then they, told me their story. Wow. And that was really the genesis of it all.
And here we are, almost 30 years later, 25, 30 years? Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Dan, tell me about the link between mental health and addiction. We talk here at Restoring Hope with Crosswinds Counseling about mental health most of the time, but I think those two are so intertwined, and I'm sure you see that on a regular basis.
Absolutely.
From your perspective, how do they fit together?
Well, addiction is usually a chemical addiction is what we deal with, drugs and alcohol. But it is, I sometimes refer to it as a secondary issue. In other words, it is almost always something that people do in response to something else. And so whether it's in response to depression or anxiety or just being overwhelmed in life or trauma that happened in their childhood, addiction is very, very commonly connected to other life issues, challenges. And in order to really overcome addiction, we have to get below the surface and find out what those issues are, and then work to kind of untangle them and to bring hope and healing into those areas as well. So they are all intertwined very, very closely together.
I feel like in the Christian community, sometimes we do a pretty bad job of handling the stigma of mental health and sweeping things under the rug and not talking about things that we really should be talking about more openly. Is that the same situation in chemical addiction too?
It is. I think it's starting to change a little bit.
Good.
As I think it's starting to change a little bit, just generally speaking, with mental health, and where it's hard to ignore the headlines. 80, 90,000 people, died last year because of an overdose. Those are numbers that are hard to ignore.
Right.
And statistically, the numbers are the same for people who attend church and don't attend church. And so the same number of people struggle with these issues, whether they go to church on Sunday or not. And so increasingly people are sensing that I don't have to hide this. I need to be open enough, transparent enough to seek help, because there is help available. And really what the church needs to do is communicate there is help available.
Yeah. With that in mind, Dan, what do you think the future of New Day looks like as you guys move into 22, as you move into the future? What do you think is down the road for your organization? Well,
we increasingly, my background and kind of the beginning was in the church. And so even though we serve a wide variety of clients and have referrals from all over the state of Indiana right now, we increasingly seek to partner with churches to help with that stigma, to help pastors understand how they can come alongside someone in their church that says, hey, pastor, I'm having this issue in my family. What can you do to help me? Where they also use the we word and invite their pastor into their struggle to where he or she knows how to help them.
Dan, thank you so much for all the work that you're doing here in Indianapolis, and thank you for being with us tonight on Restoring Hope. We really appreciate the conversation.
I appreciate the opportunity. Thanks a lot.
Dan Johnson, the founder and president of New Day Treatment Center. We'll be right back.
Shepherd works with both the first and second generation to break the cycle of poverty. It's a two-gen approach to say we want to help the parents and the students to help them have the tools for them to break the cycle of poverty.
You know, it's easy to think programs make a difference, but we know from 35 years of experience, relationships is effective.
In this world, we don't need more programs. We need to know that more people care for us.
Welcome back to Restoring Hope with Crosswinds Counseling. Tonight in our Counseling Corner segment, we meet a Crosswinds counselor as we do every week. This week, Tim Gillian helps us navigate through a topic that impacts so many people this time of year, processing hurt and pain of the past.
Hi, I'm Tim Gillian, licensed therapist and clinical supervisor here at Crosswinds. Today I want to talk to you about something that I usually spend some time working on with almost all of my clients because it affects us all at some level, and that is the hurt and the pain that we carry from all kinds of situations in our past. Everybody has this, some different degrees, different situations, but the feeling, the emotions that come with that are the same. We carry this hurt and this pain. So what do we do about it? I tell my clients you have three options when you have this. First option, revenge. They hurt you, hurt them back. What's the problem with that though? It's a cycle. They hurt you, you hurt them, they're gonna hurt you again, and we're just gonna keep going on and on forever. But it's an option. It doesn't solve the problem though. So let's go on. Option two is what I feel like most people end up doing, and that's just finding some way to live with the pain, okay? I'm going to push it to the side. I'm going to shove it down deep. I'm going to ignore it. I'm going to distract myself and just hope that it doesn't come back. And the problem, though, is if we stuff and we stuff and we stuff something, eventually that thing will blow up. And then what do? We start stuffing again. So it's a cycle. It's going to keep going on. It hasn't solved the problem still. So both those first two options, not solving it. There's one option left, and that is the hardest one, and that's forgiveness. Forgiveness is choosing to treat someone not as though they deserve. It's not saying what they did was right, but it's saying, I'm going to choose to treat you the right way regardless. And it's hard, and it takes a lot of work. But I want to give you one little piece on it today, and that is that forgiveness is for you. It's not for them, okay? So let me prove that to you. Walk with me for a second. Imagine you're a third grader on the playground. Little Johnny comes up and he pops you in the nose. You go home that night, you're hurt, you're angry, you're upset, you're stewing over it, right? What's little Johnny doing that night? He's doing his own thing. He's not thinking about it. He's not thinking about it. It's not bothering him. It's bothering you. So does little Johnny need your forgiveness? No. He's fine. Do you need to forgive him? Yes. It's for you. And there's so much more on forgiveness we need to talk about. It's so much of a bigger concept than most people realize. So myself, the other therapists here at Crosswinds, would love the chance to walk you down that path of healing that comes through forgiveness.
Thanks, Tim. Great stuff, especially this time of year. Tonight, we have a real treat for you. Typically, while we introduce you to a Crosswinds counselor each week in the Counseling Corner segment, we occasionally get to sit down with a counselor for an extended conversation, and that is the case tonight. Kiara Williams, a counselor here in Indianapolis, joins us. Kiara, thank you for being with us tonight on Restoring Hope with Crosswinds Counseling. You have been a Crosswinds counselor for about a year and a half or so.
Yes.
You started in the middle of a pandemic.
Yes, I did.
That seems like a strange time to start a counseling job with a new
does,
company.
yes.
What was that like, and what's this first year and a half been like for you?
Yeah, so it was definitely a transition for sure. I started on the Lifeline side, and so then going from in-home to in-office was definitely a transition for sure. And then with going into the office, it was really hard at first because, you know, during the first part of the pandemic, we had the mask on, and so talking with the mask on was really challenging, and making sure that we wiped the room down and everything like that afterwards was also a big hurdle. But after a while, you get used to it. And even now, it still is a challenge at times, but virtual has been a really big help. So it's been great to do virtual.
In general, give me a sense of the kinds of things that you've been working with as you meet with people and you help them through what they're going through. What types of things are you most seeing, influenced by the pandemic or not? What are you generally diving into?
Yeah, so generally what I'm seeing is a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, and especially with the pandemic, it's just like stress on, you know, returning to work or returning to school for students and adolescents, as well as the holidays are coming up, and the holidays last year, just stress on, you know, spending time with family and the dynamics of, well, how do I maybe hug my grandmother this Christmas or this Thanksgiving with the pandemic and having masks on and those types of things in the home. So
we talk all the time and hear all the time about these numbers of the need of mental health going through the roof. It's just doubled or tripled, and it depends exactly where you are, but the numbers are skyrocketing. As a counselor, have you seen that? Have you seen more people in need? Have you seen a deeper level of need here over this past year or so?
I have seen more people in need, which has been surprising, and also it has kind of been a transition of, with more people being in need, how do we meet the needs? And so being able to be able to, with virtual services, see people that are in other areas of Indiana where they may not have been able to get to an in-office appointment as readily. And so being able to meet the need through virtual services, and then also just some other programs that Crosswinds is able to offer in general, like our 5-session for our corporate wellness programs. Those types of things has been really awesome. And so just being able to meet the need in a different way than previously. So
the other thing we hear about a lot is that inside the counseling world, there is such a high level of burnout, and doing this job takes such a toll. It's so taxing on the people doing the work, the counselors, the therapists, the mental health providers. Being in the middle of that, how do you make sure that you stay charged up, that your bucket is full so that then you can pour into others?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for me, what I tend to do is I spend a lot of time with family. That's how I fill myself up, with my family and friends. And then something else I do is I will go and visit friends who may not be in the state, and just self-care things. So painting is something I really enjoy to do in my free time, or listening to music or cooking, those types of things. So I just try to make sure that I spend time with people outside of work. And then when I am spending time with people outside of work, I'm not talking about work, because as much as I love my job, I have to make sure I'm separating so that I don't get burnt out. So.
Right, that is healthy probably for all of us to do.
Yes.
Kiara, one other thing I want to ask you about is stigma. We hear about this a lot as well. And if someone is watching tonight and they've been thinking, maybe I should meet with a counselor, maybe it would be helpful to me, you are very disarming, you're very relaxed and normal, and I suspect that talking to you as a counselor is very comfortable. What would you say to someone who maybe is still struggling with some of the stigma, some of the discomfort of, should I go to a counselor? What would that look like? What would that feel like? What would you say to them to say, take that next step?
So oftentimes what I say to people is, I try to make sure that people know that my counseling room is a safe space. So anyone that comes into my room, I let them know that this is a safe space, this is non-judgmental, and I am here to, walk alongside of you in your journey. And so a lot of times I think what happens is that people feel like counseling is, someone's gonna tell me about my problem, somebody's gonna tell me all these things that I'm doing wrong. My goal isn't to tell you all the things you're doing wrong, it's to help you problem solve. It's to help you figure out, if we know that something is not where you want it to be, how can we work to get things where you want it to be? And so I just try to let people know that my job isn't to judge you, my job is to help you and to facilitate conversation that you may not get in family or you may not get with your friends. So,
Kiara, thank you so much for being here with us tonight. Thank you for providing counseling corners for us as well. You've done that a couple of times, and we appreciate your insight, but really appreciate your time with us tonight. If you would like to connect with Kiara or any Crosswinds counselor, you can go to crosswindscounseling.org. Kiara, thanks again for being here. We'll be right back.
In the heart of downtown Indy, at the corner of Pennsylvania and Maryland Streets, it's Prime 47, the city's only independent, locally owned and operated steakhouse, offering gourmet dishes, the highest quality steaks, fresh seafood, and an extensive wine list. Prime 47 specializes in large parties and events. So, whether it's dinner for 2 or 200, it's prime time you visit Prime 47, Indy's Steakhouse, for the finest in dining.
Worry, conflict, and fatigue don't have to rule your life. There are always challenges, and working with a counselor to navigate them may be the best decision for you. Crosswinds counselors are compassionate, qualified, and dedicated, and they can give you the support you deserve. Whether navigating crisis or seeking personal growth, this is your pivotal moment. Contact us today. Years from now, you'll remember today as the day hope was reignited.
Welcome back. Crosswinds Counseling is a Christian nonprofit organization with a number of open positions. Right now, we have a tremendous need for quality people to join the team and bring hope to our community. If you're a counselor, therapist, or mental health provider, and you would like to pursue a career with Crosswinds Counseling, we are looking for great men and women to make a difference in the lives of people right here in our community. There are job openings in other areas of the business as well. If you would like to join Crosswinds Counseling, you can visit the website on your screen, crosswindscounseling.org, crosswinds.org/careers. Maybe you know of someone who's looking for work in this field. Please let them know about Crosswinds Counseling. Right now, the need is tremendous. It's never been higher. Each week, we introduce you to a Crosswinds Counseling executive who spends a few minutes sharing a message of hope. It's central to who we are and what this show is all about. Tonight, Abe Hepler is here to remind us that no matter how out of control the world feels at times, Jesus is alive and He is in control.
Hi, my name's Abe. I'm one of the executives at Crosswinds. The last book in the Bible is a book called Revelation. Revelation is a fascinating book that's full of all kinds of really weird things, honestly. But it's a vision. The book of Revelation was actually a vision that was given to a man named John by Jesus Christ himself. And as John sees Jesus in this vision for the first time, Jesus makes a statement that I want us to look at together today. Jesus says this, "Do not be afraid. I am the first and the last. I am the living one. I was dead, and behold, I am alive forever and ever, and I hold the keys to death and hell." Now, one of the things that I find so fascinating about this passage is that Jesus starts this interaction with John by telling him not to be afraid. Do not be afraid. And this is important for us as a starting point too, because there are all kinds of things in our world that can make us afraid, that can create worry and doubt and stress and anxiety. Jesus goes on to make a statement after that to John, and he says, "I am the living one." Now, one of the things that's interesting about this is that John was with Jesus when Jesus died. John actually watched Jesus die, but Jesus appears to him alive again and says, "I am the living one." And the important thing for us to remember about that is that as Christians, lots of times we focus our faith on the death of Jesus. But the resurrection of Jesus is what's most important for us. Jesus is not dead. He is alive. And he goes on to say to John, "I am the first and the last." Jesus is making the point that he was at the beginning of all things. He will be at the end of all things. And today, he is. Jesus is alive today, and he is actually waiting on us to reach out to him in our day-to-day lives and seek him to be a part of who we are and what we're doing. But Jesus then makes a comment, and he says this, "I hold the keys of death and hell." And if Jesus is in control of these things, these incredibly big things that can create fear in our world, things like death and sickness, if Jesus is in control of those things, then Jesus is also in control of the little things that you and I face every single day. Jesus has the power to meet you where you are right now and help you with whatever it is you're facing.
Shepherd works with both the first and second generation to break the cycle of poverty. It's a two-gen approach to say we want to help the parents and the students to help them have the tools for them to break the cycle of poverty.
You know, it's easy to think programs make a difference, but we know from 35 years of experience, relationships is effective.
In this world, we don't need more programs. We need to know that more people care for us.
Thank you for joining us tonight for Restoring Hope with Crosswinds Counseling. It's been a pleasure to chat with Dan and Kiara tonight. And of course, it's always an honor to spend time with all of you. We will be back each Thursday evening at 9:30. Next week will be just 2 days shy of Christmas, and we'll be joined by two special guests as we prepare for the holiday. We'll see you right here next Thursday night at 9:30 on WHMB TV 40. Have a great night, a wonderful week. Be blessed and stay safe. Good night, everybody.